Alright guys, I had a couple questions on how I hook the wire, the polywire, to the fence and what I do with the other end. So I'm going to try and zoom in here a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. So we've got the reel here, which you've got your polywire on. And as you can see, what I do is I pull the wire through one of these holes around the handle, so that keeps the spool. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'll zoom you back out. So I pull the wire through. Here's your wires on the spool. What I do is I pull it through around the handle, and then that locks it so no more wire can come off the spool. And then all I do is I take this, hook it over the fence like that, and now you have a connection. Now you have a connection here. So now your polywire is wrapped around your high tensile wire, and I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I can see it. You see those stainless steel strands in there? Those make connection with the high tensile wire, and then now that powers your polywire. So now this has current running through it, and the cows get shocked, they touch it, and then you don't want to touch it. So that's what you do with this end. And I normally don't lay it over like this. Normally I just take it and hook it like this, and then you have more. Normally it's tighter too, but now if you look at it, you have multiple strands and multiple pieces of poly rope that are touching the high tensile wire, so you know that you get a good current. But I've never had trouble with just hooking it over like this. And when you hook it like this, normally you don't have to worry about it shorting out on the T-post. If you have it hooked the other way, sometimes it'll tip down and get caught on the T-post and short out. So that's how I have that. And there you can see how it's wrapped around the handle so it can't unspool on you. And you get it fairly tight, you know. When you're figuring that out, you get it tight so this wire is tight. But then at the other end, I'll show you this handle that I have. You can use regular gate handles you buy at your local farm store or hardware store or whatever. But I ordered these off the internet. I don't know where it was I ordered them. I ordered them years ago. But I want to say it was a place that specialized in grazing stuff, rotational grazing. But if you see this handle is plastic, so really this end is dead. You know, you can hook this. If you have it so your perimeter is always powered, you can hook this to that, and now your polywire is dead. There's some people that don't shut their wires off, or the power off when they move their cows. So that's why I put that handle on here, because I don't have to shut the power off that way to move this wire. You can hook it to that end. Your rope is dead, so you can work on it on this end and not get zapped. So that is how I hook the polywire up, and it's powered and it stays tight. And you can buy those fancy schmancy geared reels at the farm store that are 50 bucks a piece, you know, that are like a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio when you're rolling them up. But on most of my runs, they're less than 500 feet, so it doesn't take that long to roll the wire up. And anything else, if you're need the exercise anyways, it doesn't hurt to turn this a few extra times to roll up the wire. And these are just an extension cord reel you buy at your hardware store for like 5 bucks a piece. Maybe they're 10 bucks a piece, I don't know. It seems to me I bought these for like $4.95 at Fleet Farm. They're not UV stabilized plastic, so they do deteriorate over time. But it seems to me that I get about 5-6 years out of them. So even if you figure 5 years, you bought it for $5. It costs you $1 a year to replace it. And I have, I don't know, I think I have 8 or 9 of these all together. As you can see, there's another one by that post over there. For, you know, it's just sitting there. I need to grab all this stuff before it snows, but I had that because I closed the gate up here, then I just ran that across these two so the cows couldn't get out there, but they could go up and eat all the grass around the old stock chopper, green chopper, and my fencing cart and all that stuff. And now that the cows aren't, I got this wire up, I just dropped that one to the ground in case I need to hook it back up. But they're a quick, easy gate that's not permanent. And you can see I've got another one up there. I use that one for a lane stop across here when I want the cows to go to the north woods. I just put across there, that way the cows have to take a left and go to the woods, or if I want them to go to the back, clear cut, I put it on this way so the cows have to go straight. So it's basically, I call it a lane stop, but it's basically just a temporary gate. So yeah, and then that's that, and then I'll show you my gates. I know I've shown these in the past, but since I made the last video, I have other subscribers now that ask about this stuff, so I'm just gonna show this again one more time. And like this reel here, that reel there, as you can see, it's all falling apart, and there's a handle on it. This reel here is 8 years old. That was one of the first reels I ever bought when I first started doing rotational grazing. So that one's about due to get swapped out, and all I'm gonna do is cut the handle off it, throw the rest of it away, and put new polywire on it. And you can buy poly rope or polywire in a 660 foot roll or a 1320 foot roll. And I always buy a 1320, and then I do about half the roll on each, you know, so that way I think it's somewhere between $40 and $50 for a 1300 foot roll. That'll do 2 spools. And the easiest way to do that is come out to your widest paddock, tie the poly cord to it, run across, and then give yourself some extra in case for some reason whatever breaking you gotta tie it, just so you have extra where, you know, you can repair it if you have to. And then just tie it to here and roll it up. It's pretty simple, and like I said, that one I've been using for 8 years, so you know, it's a little bit of investment, but it's nice how it's versatile. You can use it for so many different things. And here on this gate, as you can see, I just have, this is the heavier poly rope. This is 9 wire instead of 6 wire, and then this is a bigger diameter. I just have it hooked to a pin lock insulator, tied off, and now it's dead. And then I have an underground wire that goes over to the other side, which I don't trust them underground wires. I'd really like to go up and over, but I haven't got around to doing that yet. If it goes up and over, you're guaranteed it's not going to short out. Now this underneath the ground, if a gopher or something started chewing on it, it could short out underneath the ground. You could be chasing a short that you're never going to find. But now, and you can see it's been laying on the ground for a while. It was muddy the last time. But now that it's dead, you can just drop to the ground. It's not like the other wires where you have it hooked to both ends, you drop to the ground, it's going to sit and snap the whole time. This is dead laying on the ground, and then this poly rope, as you can see, lays nice on the ground. It's not like using a piece of wire that's going to have memory and kind of coil up and get caught on the equipment when you drive over it. But then at this end, here you got your top one. You just take, and I got to pull on it because I have them really tight. I just hook it to right there, and now it's powered. So when the gate is closed, it's powered. And when you unhook it from there, it's not powered anymore. You can drop it to the ground, drive your equipment over, or whatever. So that's how I do the gates. And then this stuff, I double it. As you can see, it's 2 strands for each part of it here. I double it, and then that way it's much easier for the deer and everything to see it. A guy could probably put a flag or 2 on it too, but the deer know that it's here. There's deer tracks that go through it all the time, and they jump over it or walk through it. I haven't had any problems. So the only thing that I can really say is, if you were to do this, if you get two different colored gate handles, it makes it quicker for knowing which one's the top and which one's the bottom, instead of having to pull on and look or whatever. But half the time, if it's on the ground, and depending on how you unhook them, they might get wrapped up with each other anyway. So that is how I do that. Hopefully that answers some of the questions that guys are having on how I do the polywire on, you know, to set it up. And for anybody who is considering doing rotational grazing, I would say get at least 5 of these made up, and after you're going, like, see, this is a smaller wire. After you're going and your cows know the routine, it's not a big deal. But in the beginning, sometimes they get stupid, or you get a younger heifer that doesn't know, and she'll go underneath the wire. And then all of a sudden, when she goes through, she gets shocked, and then she's afraid to come back with the rest of the herd. What I do, see, this year I didn't do it this way. This year I just moved them on big paddocks for a set amount of time, then moved them to the next one. Last year I moved them every day, and I would set up just like this. Let's say this whole field here, we're going to graze all the way to the back. Well, I would set up 4 or 5 of these polywires every so far with how much I figure they're going to eat in a day. You bring them in the first one, then day number 2, you just take this off here, roll it back a little bit. The cows will run around. Once they know the routine, they'll run around the end of it, they'll run around you, get in the next one, then you bring it back and close it. That way they can't go back to where they already ate. And then day number 2, come do it to the second wire, roll it up enough, the cows will run around you, close it, and now you have 2 paddocks behind you that have already been grazed. They're in the third one. And if you do it with 5 wires, now you have 1 more paddock ahead of you that hasn't been grazed. And then you can go back and take the first wire down and then advance it to the next section. And I always had it set up where I had at least 1, if not 2 paddocks ahead of me set up, and then at least 1 wire behind you. So if somebody was to go through here, they would get back into what was eaten the day before, or not what was eaten 2, 3, 4, or 5 days back. And then if you have 2, at least 1 if not 2 set up in front of you, if somebody were to get ahead, they would be stuck in the one ahead. They wouldn't be getting to where they can go graze off or eat the rest of your 10-acre field. So, but normally I would have 2 set up behind, or 1 set up behind, then 2 to 3 set up ahead, plus the one they're in. And then that way, if one day you're real busy, you don't have to take the extra time to set up another one ahead. You would still have 1 set up, so you can just go out and move your cows quick and go do whatever you have to do, and then the next day move 2 wires instead of 1. It's really quick. Once your cows get to know it, it takes you by far longer to get out to where the cows are than it does to set up a polywire or to move the cows. Once the cows know the routine, and if you do it on a set time every day when you move the cows, like let's say you have a day job and you come home from work, and you do it every day when you get home from work, normally the cows are going to be waiting in the corner, because they know in this corner is where you're going to move them. Because they get used to seeing that reel. They will normally be waiting here for you to get home from work and ready to be moved. So moving the cows takes a minute. Setting the polywire up, depending on how long your run is, that'll take you the longest part. And depending on how long your run is and whether you walk it or if you use an ATV to move your wire, that's going to determine how fast it takes to move the wire. So it's pretty quick. And honestly, if you can move them every day, you're by far better. The last couple years when I was moving them every day, I noticed a big improvement over how much forage I had available versus this year, how I move them on a big paddock every day. The forage didn't last near as long doing it this way as compared to moving them every day, and they're more selective. If you have a lot of weeds, in your fields, that's going to be worse if you move them like I did this year on a big paddock, because they won't eat the weeds. Where if you move them every day in a smaller area, they'll either A, eat the weeds, or B, they'll trample them to the ground and normally kill them. So anybody that's looking at getting into rotational grazing, I think it's well worth the investment, and it's well worth the time. When I first was farming here, I was lucky to get about 1.5 tons to the acre of forage off my pastures. And then when we were doing rotational grazing, see, this whole back area here, this field where the corn was and this field where the hay was, this was all rotationally grazed. And if you look right there, you see that, my camera wants to focus on that weed. You see right there where you can see the dirt trails? That was a lane going right down the middle. That lane went from the woods all the way up to the front here. And the posts are gone now, but right about here were 2 posts. The lane started there, went all the way to the back, and then I had another lane. Get off the chopper box. Zoomed in too much here. I had another lane that started right there, and then that one went all the way back, and that divided. Well, there's still some posts there. That post was part of it. And that lane went all the way up the water run, and I could graze on both sides of that lane, but normally I would graze the hill, then work my way all the way to the back, and then I'd turn around and come up the front here, or up the middle one, and then I would come on this side of the lane and then graze this all the way back to the woods. And then when I got back to the woods, I'd bring the cows back down the lane back to the front, and then start on the hill again and work my way around. And then last year I added these woods to it, and I basically would get the cows back here. They would get to about where my finger is, where that lane goes back, and I had polywire set up. I would lift up the wire, let them go up in the woods for 2-3 days, eat what they want, then come back and then graze them the rest of the way down, and then start the hill. And I had lanes because the cows would come back to the buildings for water. And then last year I hauled water out to them every day. The lane was there, and the cows had the option to come back to the shed, but as long as there was water and their mineral out there, they never came back to the shed. You could count on 2 hands how many times out of all summer they actually came back to the shed for shade or whatever. Otherwise, as long as there was water out there, 95 degrees, they'd be out there. They wouldn't come back to the shed. So since then I have taken down the lane because of that, and now I just would move them with water. But as you guys saw this year, I use these lanes to let them come back. For the better part of the year I did take water out to them for a while, just so the lanes didn't see as much traffic. So there's all kinds of things a guy can do with rotational grazing and how you have it set up. I prefer to not have any more lanes than I have to, and basically the sun is messing with my camera here, but as you can see over here, I have that one wire that runs up the hill, and on the left side there's the post but no wire anymore. My plan is I'm going to run them up the hill, moving them every day, and then there's T-posts that go along the base of that hill. You can see a wood post there. I'm going to run them around the top to that corner, then by that tree. They're going to come around and then graze the bottom section all the way back to this lane. And then from there, they're going to go out to those woods. And where I moved the fence on first crop, if anybody remembers, I hayed that side hill then. After first crop, I added that to the pasture. Well, I'm just going to probably run a polywire around where that fence used to be. And I'm going to section off a set amount every day for them to eat out of the better part of the ground. And then they can go up and graze whatever they want off the woods. If it ever gets to be where the woods are growing really good and I get it cleared out, I'm probably going to run a wire, keep running it straight to the property line, then I'd graze them to the back. And if this hill were ever to be nice like the hill over here, then I would just section off all the way back, bringing them back this way on the left or the north side. And then I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to fence that field all the way over the property line, and I'm going to section off a little bit every day where they can have the better part, you know, a section every day, and then they can basically graze whatever they want in the woods. They'll eat what they'll go and clear off the better part of the field first, and then once they get that eaten off, they're going to be looking for more food. Then they'll come up here and forage around in the woods. And then once the woods get opened up enough, I'm not for sure exactly how I would section it off, but it'd be nice to run them 4 passes, you know, and then bring them back and start the next one. But every farm is different, everybody's layout is different, so hopefully that helps. If any of you guys are thinking about rotational grazing, I know Tyler, you're getting into cattle now, and you might set something up. Hopefully this helps you a little bit to figure out or kind of see some of the ideas on how to do it. All I can say is the less amount of wire, the better, because then that way you can divide up however you want. And basically here I use I use the water run. I follow the water run that's all the way to the back for 1 wire, and then that divides these 2 fields. And then, you know, that field is 1 field. That field is 10 acres. This field is 10 acres. This field is 10 acres, which it was 10 acres. Now it's 15 because I added along those woods and then that hillside back to it. But with how I'm going to farm this, I don't plan to, well, it depends on when it's hay. But for corn, I don't know, it's going to be all corn, but I'm going to bale some of it for stocks and graze probably the back part. So well, that'll be, we'll see that when the time comes, because everything can change in a minute. So that's how I have mine set up. But like I say, the less, if you can just do your perimeter wire and then either set up a temporary divider to divide your pasture in half or whatever, so your runs aren't as long going across it. Like if I was going to graze this 10 acres, I wouldn't run a polywire from this end all the way to the other end. I would set up a temporary wire going down the middle, and then I would start them. I'd start them probably where the gate is here, and then section every day till they got to that end, then jump them over to the other side, and then run them all the way back, section every day. And then when they get to this end, jump them back to the front, and then graze them back up here to where the gate is, and then pull them off of it and bring them to the next one. That's just how I would do it. It's just easier if you can make a circle and then end where you started. So anyways guys, this is getting long, so that's how I do that. Any more questions, ask. I'll make a video trying to explain it better. And I have requests for a bunch of other videos I'm going to try and get to. It's been busy making corn stalk bales to neighbors, so yeah, I could do a video on the fix I did on the baler yesterday too, and I didn't record it because it was really busy, going like crazy, and it's not a fix that I recommend anybody doing, but I'll make a video of that. So thanks for watching guys. Please comment, rate, subscribe. If you have any questions, please ask. I will try and answer them the best I can. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.